What will you dream of tonight, Lady Rachel? What will you dream of tonight? Who will you dream of tonight, Lady Rachel?
All right, hello there, thrill seekers. That was a little clip of a song called The Lady Rachel, originally written by Kevin Ayers and recorded by me a couple of days ago, and I thought it came out real good. Kevin Ayers was one of the people when the Dementia 13 records I made in the 80s first started coming out. I would see reviews and they would say, oh, he's influenced by Syd Barrett and Kevin Ayers, and I'd be like, who's Kevin Ayers? Because I was kind of dumb at the time, and I found out Kevin Ayers was the original leader of The Soft Machine, and that he'd made these really incredible solo albums, and I started getting them, and I started getting into them and liking them. So maybe that's why I did Kevin Ayers. All right, so I'm back in the backyard today, as you can see, and I'm hoping the video won't crap out this time. 2 days ago, I did a video out here in the backyard, and it was 29 minutes long, and when I took the laptop inside, I found that there was only 49 seconds of that video. I don't know what happened to it. It just went away. So let's hope that doesn't happen again this time. And if you're watching this video, it means it didn't. So in that video that I made a couple of days ago, the one that got destroyed and the one that I remade inside, I said some rather negative things about Buddhist ordination or Zen Buddhist ordination. And when I say things like that, I kind of take for granted that certain things are understood and maybe they're not understood, which is, I'm saying this as a guy who got ordained. So everything I'm saying about Buddhist ordination comes from somebody who did get ordained. It's like if I criticize vegetarians. I've been a vegetarian pretty much most of my life, ever since I was about 20. So now I'm way over 20. So it's been most of my life, and I'm still critical of vegetarians, but people think I'm saying you shouldn't be a vegetarian. Well, no, I just think vegetarians are stupid sometimes and kind of ridiculous. And don't get me started on vegans. So when I say that certain things about the ordination process and how it's done and all the things I said in the video 2 days ago, when I'm saying those disparaging things, I'm not saying you shouldn't ordain or that there's nothing to ordination or anything like that. I think we need to be realistic about what it is. That's what I'm trying to say. And so I thought I would do this video today and say why I got ordained. And I've done a bunch of videos about ordination. I actually went through this morning trying to find them. And I found two that are interesting. These are not certainly the only two I've done. On March 11th, 2021, I did one called Ordaining as a Zen Monk. On June 12th, 2022, I did one called The Truth About Phony Zen Masters, which I'm going to talk about a little bit, but that's also about ordination. So why did I get ordained? This is a question I've been thinking about ever since I decided to do this video, which was pretty much right after I did that video 2 days ago. So for 2 days ago, I've been pondering this, and I don't know if I have the answer, but I'm going to give you my tentative answer. So when I first started getting into Zen Buddhism, I didn't do it because I wanted to ordain or because I had this idea that one day I'm going to be a Zen monk. I've told this story too many times to count, but basically I was a student at Kent State University in Ohio, and I had been raised partly in Kenya, in Africa, and I'd seen a lot of Hinduism there, and I was into the Beatles, and I kind of got this idea of like, well, maybe there's something to this Hindu spirituality thing. And I wanted to find out about it. And I'm in a university, and I thought, well, this is the place to learn about things. And I looked for a class about Hindu mysticism or Hindu religion or Indian religion, and Kent State at the time didn't have any classes on any of those things. But they did offer a class called Zen Buddhism. And all I knew, I'm sorry for repeating myself so often, but all I knew about Zen Buddhism was that it was the Japanese form of an Indian religion, and this is as close as I could get, so I took this class on Zen Buddhism. And I was so impressed by what I heard there and by the practice. The teacher had us do Zazen practice on the first day, and I was impressed by the practice. I was impressed by the teacher. I thought, okay, this is something I want to pursue. So for years, for 20 some years, I think, that was my motivation. I wasn't into it because I wanted to become ordained. I was into it because it was a useful practice for my life, and I was quite committed to it. I was doing Zazen every day. Once I moved to Japan, and it was easier through Nishijima Roshi, my teacher there, it was easier to go to retreats, because it was hard to find a retreat back in the 80s in the U.S. I knew of a few of them, but I would have had to travel to California, or New York State to do them, and that just wasn't going to happen. I was dirt poor, and I was working for every penny I could get, so there was no way I'm gonna take off to California and to do a retreat. So once I got into Japan, and it was actually possible through Nishijima Roshi to do retreats, I started doing retreats as often as possible. So not only was I doing Zazen every day, I was doing retreats 2 or 3 times a year. And after a while of doing that and going to pretty much every class that Nishijima Roshi offered, which he did one a week. Sometimes he would do an extra one. Anyway, he was doing a lot. I was going to a lot of Nishijima Roshi's classes. Then I had the experience that I've talked about on this video channel many times, which is written about in my books Hardcore Zen, and written about again in my book There Is No God and He Is Always With You, where I'm crossing a bridge on my way to work, probably after a retreat, but I'm not sure. And I had this rather profound experience, which is what they tell you you're going to have if you keep working at this Zen thing long enough. And it was an experience where there was no difference at all between me and everything in the universe. So it's a pretty profound thing, and words don't touch it. For the profundity of the experience, but it happened, and I was like, okay, now I know this is real. Now I know they're not BSing me about this stuff. So all that stuff had happened, and then one day Nishijima Roshi grabs me. I don't think he physically grabbed me, but he stopped me on the way out of one of his lectures and started talking to me about how he wanted to do Dharma transmission. He wanted me to take Dharma transmission from him. I know we'd had conversations about that experience that I'd had crossing the bridge. I know we'd had a lot of conversations. I'd kind of become chummy with him, if not friends with him, and we talked a lot about this very deep stuff. So I'm sure that had something to do with it, and he knew that this experience had happened, so I'm sure that had something to do with it. And he said he wants me to be his Dharma heir, which... And I apologize to longtime viewers. A few people commented last video that they watched every one of my videos, so I apologize to you specifically, because you've heard this a bunch of times before. But I never considered myself like a candidate for Dharma transmission. I thought Dharma transmission would happen to other people who were these big deal people who wanted to go out and share with the world the wonders of Zen and become priests and monks and things. It wasn't for people like me who just did the practice on their own for its own sake, and wanted to have this kind of wanted to see for themselves if it was real. So he did that. He said, I want to give you Dharma transmission. I want to, and in order to do Dharma transmission, you have to be a monk. And this is where you can watch those videos I reference, where I go into this whole spiel about how that word monk is difficult. Anyway, but you'd have to go through this ceremony called Jukai, in which you publicly vow to uphold the 16 Buddhist precepts. And then following that, you get the Dharma, or that's what he was offering me, the Dharma transmission ceremony after that. And I don't know the date of my Dharma transmission ceremony. I do know the date of my Jukai, because I got this neat little rakusu at the time, and this neat little rakusu tells me that the rakusu was given to me on Heisei Juninen, Heisei year 12, on July 30th. That's what that says. Shichigatsu Sanju Nichi, July 30th. So that's when I took the precepts ceremony. Heisei 12 is the year 2000. I had to look that up because I'd forgotten. They do this weird numbering system according to the reign of the emperor in Japan, and so Heisei 12 is the year 2000. So on July of the year 2000, July 30th, the year 2000, I took the precepts, and I think maybe 2 weeks or a month later, I did the Dharma transmission ceremony. And I showed the paperwork that I got for that on that video called The Truth About Phony Zen Masters. And I had the stuff in a storage facility at the time, and I took it out and I showed it to the camera. And then this morning I went looking for it, and I can't find any of that stuff. So I don't know where I put it after I moved. So I moved from Los Angeles out here, so I don't know what box it's in. I can't find it, but it's preserved on video forever on YouTube, at least. I'm sure it's somewhere. I think there's a couple of closets I haven't dug through yet, so it's probably in one of those. So it's not because I don't care about those things. It's just because how often am I going to look at those? Anyway, the Dharma transmission ceremony happens. So why did I do that? That's the point of this video. That's why you came here. I guess that I did it because my teacher wanted me to do it. And I had a great deal of respect for him. And I thought, well, and he was the person who sort of shepherded me. I don't know if that's the word. He was the person who was kind of my mentor during this process in which I had that profound experience. So that was another reason to sort of trust him and to kind of accord with his judgment on this thing. Because I wasn't really into the idea of ordaining. So the reason I did it was for me, and my ordination was through him. So the buck stops here. My ordination was through Nishijima Roshi himself. So it wasn't as part of an organization. I mean, he had an organization called Dogen Sangha, and I think, I don't know if the name Dogen Sangha appears. It doesn't appear on my rakusu. I don't think it appears anywhere on any of my documentation. So it wasn't an ordination through Dogen Sangha. It was an ordination from Nishijima Roshi to me. And this is the way I think, this way of doing it makes it legitimate to me. So, for example, I mentioned in that earlier video that the Catholic Church has been beset by all kinds of allegations of wrongdoing, and probably YouTube would give me a ding if I used the P word, that that many of their priests are accused of being, and that the Church is accused of hiding and moving priests around so that they wouldn't be caught for doing this thing, even though they would keep doing this thing. That kind of stuff. And so there's a litany of other reasons that one would say this Catholic Church has been scandalized. Even so, there are for sure a lot of very sincere Catholic priests who are not the P word, who carry the responsibility of being a priest as a very important, heavy thing, who are very committed to the vows that they took and uphold those vows, and they're very strict with themselves. And so the fact that the organization which put its little stamp of approval on their certificate of ordination is, I mean, it may be relevant in some aspects, but as far as goes their commitment to it, it's irrelevant. They still are just as committed no matter what the organization is doing or how that's working. And that's kind of how I feel about ordination. Ordination, if you're doing it for yourself because you want to make a kind of public declaration that you are committed to this thing, the fact that you make such a declaration in public will often aid you in keeping the vows that you've chosen to keep, because you've gone in front of your friends and your family and everybody, whoever else in front of the organization and said you're going to keep these vows. So that often is useful. Sometimes people get a kind of a feeling of connection. I certainly got a feeling of connection to Nishijima Roshi from having done those ceremonies with him, and it was very important to me. So I do think that there is value in ordination, and I am not saying, when I say these disparaging things about ordination, that it's stupid or you shouldn't do it at all. I'm just saying, realistically speaking, all it is a kind of certificate that often, in Nishijima Roshi's case, I did not buy my certificate from him. He was actually pretty adamant about that, because I remember after the ceremony, there was a Japanese person who was close to me who was like, well, you got to give him money, because this is the way things are done in Japan. And that's true. In Japan, it's often a kind of an unspoken thing that you're supposed to pay for certain things that you wouldn't pay for in the United States. For example, going to a wedding, it's expected that you will give money to the people, not just a wedding gift, but money to the people who are having the wedding. That's expected, but usually not stated. So it was a similar situation. That it seemed that I should give him some money. So after the ceremony, I had this money prepared in a little envelope, with his name on it and all, done, gussied up like you're supposed to. And I kind of sheepishly went up to his room where he was changing or whatever he was doing after the ceremony. And I said, oh, here you go. And he looked at it and he said no. He wouldn't take it. He refused to take it. So not only was there no charge for the ceremony or the certification that I got from Nishijima Roshi, he literally refused to take my money when I offered it for him. So it wasn't like that. But in most cases, if you are getting ordained through an organization, you're going to pay that organization for the certification. That's, I'm pretty sure that's how it goes for any organization. Probably when you become a Boy Scout instructor, you're paying the Boy Scouts of America, I would assume, for your instructor certificate. I know I paid the state of Illinois back in the long time ago when I had a teaching certificate. I paid for that. So it's, you're paying for a certification, and the certification is viewed by the public as having some kind of value to it, and so on and so forth. And so especially if you want to go out and preach or something, it's probably good to have certification. And in the Zen world, it is understood that one does not present oneself as a Zen teacher or a Buddhist teacher of any kind without the proper authorization. So there's this very strong idea of a lineage. So it's passed down from master to disciple, from master to disciple, supposedly for 2,500 years. And if you don't have that sort of explicit permission to present yourself as a teacher, then you don't do it. And that's what that video, what did I call it? The Truth About Phony Zen Masters. That's what that video is all about. People who present themselves as Zen Masters but don't have that authorization. So you can go look that up. So I don't know. I just thought I'd do a quick video about this, and at 19 minutes long already, it's not that quick. But to just kind of put to bed that idea that I'm disparaging the whole process of ordination. And just for poops and laughs, here is my ordination certificate. I'll put it up on the screen. I've got it on my phone so I can read it to you, because I won't be able to read it off the screen. But I don't know who did the annotations. Maybe it was me. I don't remember doing this, but the original version doesn't have any English on it. It's just got Japanese, but I'm showing the annotated version, which says Certificate of Registration, Apprentice of Gudo Nishijima of Tochigi Prefecture, Ward 65, Shuju Temple. I think that is Nishijima Roshi had a temple. I'm putting this in scare quotes. Somebody had donated to him some land, and that land was designated as a temple. Although no temple was ever built on that land, it's just this weird formality they have in Japan. So I assume that's what Shujuji Temple in Tochigi Prefecture is that piece of land with no temple on it. I've never been there. And then it says, my Buddhist name, Ben-e, Odo Ben-e, but they use the Ben-e. Has the year of my birth, March 5th, 1964. Now you know that I am super old. And I had Tokudo ordination, Shukkei Tokudo. It doesn't say Shukkei, it just says Tokudo ordination. Interesting. Shukkei is home leaving. But Tokudo ordination ceremony June 15th, 2004, so just over 20 years ago. The monks and teachers of Tokein Temple, that's where the ceremony took place, hereby record the ordination of this person August 17th, 2004 is when it was registered. So registered 2 months after two-ish months after. Managing teacher Hidenori Fuchi. I'm not sure who Hidenori Fuchi is. I think that might have been one of the monks at Tokein, but not sure. I don't recognize that name. Because as I said, I did it through Nishijima Roshi, and that's one of the reasons that this is a personal thing. So the institutional aspect of it doesn't interest me. I don't want to become part of an institution. I want to be part of a religious institution. I don't want to start a religious institution. I have no interest in religious institutions or institutions in general, but especially religious institutions. So it was just kind of for me, and other people who want to go out there and ordain, more power to you. I respect it. I just think we should be realistic about what it actually is. So there you go. That's why I ordained. I don't know. I actually don't think I explained that very well at all, but there you go. If you want to donate to my being ordained, I don't know. You can go below, on the screen below should be links to my PayPal and Patreon accounts. That's on the description section if you're watching this on YouTube. Or if you don't like that, you can go to this URL, which is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. There you will find links to my PayPal and Patreon accounts, other links. And that is how I make most of my living, so I appreciate your support, but you don't have to support me if you don't want to. All right, we will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Bye-bye. Where are you? Hey, Ziggy Doggy. Hey, Ziggy. Where are you? You've been hiding under the table the whole time I've been doing that talk. What do you think? Do you want to get ordained? I already ordained you as the cutest dog in the world. Gosh, you can't even see his face. Sorry, he's hiding today. Alright, we'll see you, Ziggy, later. Bye.